You are operating under a delusion. You believe that when the grid fails, it is a pause, a temporary glitch in the matrix of comfort you call civilization. You are wrong. The old world is over, and the margin of error for your survival is absolute zero. You must strip away the veneer of hope and look at the situation with hard logic, physics, and the brutal clarity of biology. The majority of the population will die not because they lack supplies, but because their strategy is built on confident mistakes. They are hoarding high-tech crutches, night vision that requires batteries, GPS systems that require satellites, and complex firearms that require specific lubricants, believing that technology will bridge the gap. It will not. Entropy is the only law that remains constant, and complexity is the enemy of survival. In the immediate aftermath of a collapse, the tactical bro aesthetic, laden with carabiners, lithium batteries, and polymer gadgets, is a death sentence. It signals that you are a loot drop, a resource cache waiting to be harvested by the desperate and the violent. You are relying on a supply chain that has evaporated. When the batteries die, your operational capacity drops to zero. This is a violation of the primary operational principle. Reliance on finite, non-replaceable resources guarantees extinction. You must pivot immediately. You must stop thinking like a consumer of the old world and start thinking like a producer of the new. This requires a shift in crowd psychology. While the masses loot electronic stores for televisions that will never turn on again, you must hunt for the invisible tools, the Amish Blacklist. These are the tools that the looters ignore. To the untrained eye, they look like rusted junk, antique debris from a forgotten century. But to the strategist, they are the only mechanisms capable of defying the second law of thermodynamics without a grid connection. We look to the Amish not for religious guidance, but for operational data. They have been running a parallel civilization that is functionally immune to grid collapse for centuries. Their survival is not luck. It is a brutal mathematical calculation of energy input versus energy output. They understand that if a tool cannot be repaired with local materials and powered by human metabolic output, it is not an asset. It is a liability. This analysis identifies 6 specific low-tech tools that become priceless overnight. These are not suggestions. They are requirements for avoiding calorie bankruptcy. Calorie bankruptcy is the state where you expend more energy surviving than you can acquire, leading to a slow, agonizing death by starvation. The high-tech survivalist burns calories carrying heavy batteries for dead devices. The strategist uses leverage, torque, and thermal mass to conserve energy. We are replacing the confident mistakes of the gadget obsessed with the operational principles of the homestead engineer. The objective is simple. Establish systems that function indefinitely without electricity, gasoline, or external support. If your survival plan requires a functioning Duracell factory, you are already dead. We will now dismantle your reliance on the grid and replace it with the architecture of silence and durability. The first operational protocol of the new reality is silence. In a grid-down environment, the background hum of civilization, traffic, HVAC systems, industrial machinery vanishes, dropping the noise floor to near absolute zero. In this acoustic vacuum, the sound of a power tool is not just a noise. It is a tactical error that compromises your location. Utilizing a generator or a battery-operated drill violates the gray man principle, instantly marking you as a target for the Golden Horde. You must construct the architecture of silence, and that begins with tool Scepter 1, the brace and auger. This is not about nostalgia. It is about physics. A modern power drill relies on high RPM, rotations per minute, and low torque, requiring a constant feed of electricity that you no longer possess. The brace and auger operates on the opposite principle: low RPM and massive, infinite torque, generated by the mechanical advantage of the crank arm. With this tool, you can drive a 1-inch auger bit through solid oak beams to fortify your perimeter, and you can do it in total silence. You are building defensive fortifications while your neighbors are screaming over the sputter of dying generators. The brace allows you to secure windows, reinforce doors, and construct barriers without broadcasting your resources to the starving masses. It is a tool of stealth engineering. When the lithium-ion batteries in your DeWalt or Milwaukee tools degrade into useless chemical bricks, the steel geometry of the brace remains operational. It is the definition of hard logic, a system with zero dependency on external inputs. Once you have secured the perimeter, you must address the primary kill mechanism of the post-collapse world: hypothermia. You cannot survive without heat, and in 90% of operational theaters, heat requires wood. This brings us to tool number 2, the two-man crosscut saw. The amateur strategist relies on a chainsaw. This is a confident mistake. A chainsaw is a loud, fuel-thirsty liability. It announces your location to everyone within a 3-mile radius, signaling that you have fuel, a liquid currency worth more than gold. Furthermore, a chainsaw is a complex machine requiring 2-cycle oil, specific chains, and maintenance parts that are now extinct. When the gasoline runs dry, the chainsaw is nothing but heavy scrap metal. The crosscut saw, specifically one with a lance tooth or raker tooth pattern, is a marvel of biological efficiency. It utilizes the multiplier rule by converting human metabolic energy into thermal energy with ruthless efficiency. The raker teeth shave out the wood fiber, clearing the kerf so the cutting teeth can slice without binding. This tool does not require gasoline, it requires calories. It operates on the principle of heating you twice, once when you cut the wood, and again when you burn it. This prevents calorie bankruptcy by ensuring that the energy you expend harvesting fuel is offset by the immediate metabolic heat generation of the labor itself. By relying on the crosscut saw, you decouple your survival from the petroleum supply chain. You become an autonomous energy producer, capable of harvesting the heating resources required to neutralize the freezing temperatures that will kill the unprepared within hours. The third tool addresses the intersection of biology and defense. You must clear the vegetation around your perimeter to establish fields of fire and eliminate concealment for incoming threats. But you cannot afford the caloric cost of fighting nature with brute force. In the old world, you used a string trimmer or a gas-powered lawnmower. These are liabilities. They consume gasoline you cannot replace. They create noise that destroys your sonic discipline. And they rely on nylon string that degrades under UV light. When the string runs out, the tool is a useless stick. You are left with a machete, hacking blindly at tall grass, expending massive amounts of energy for minimal gain. This is the fast lane to calorie bankruptcy. You are burning 400 calories an hour to clear a space that yields 0 caloric return. This is a mathematical error that ends in starvation. The solution is the scythe. Do not mistake this for the crude, heavy American implement often depicted in cartoons. We are speaking of the refined European agricultural scythe, a tool of precision physics. It does not chop, it slices. The blade is a razor, shaped to capture the target and shear it at the base. The movement is not a hacking motion of the arms which fatigues the small muscle groups quickly. It is a rotation of the core, the strongest biomechanical lever in the human body. A trained operator can mow an acre of tall grass in a morning without exhaustion, moving in a rhythmic, silent trance. You are clearing your defensive zones, removing the cover that a saboteur would use to approach your home, and you are doing it without burning a drop of fuel or announcing your presence to the county. Furthermore, the scythe transforms a defensive chore into an energy harvesting operation. The cut grass is not waste. It is biomass. In a collapse scenario, synthetic fertilizers are gone. The nitrogen cycle is your new god. You must harvest that green mass to build compost, which feeds the soil, which feeds the crops, which feed you. The gas mower mulches this resource into dust or requires you to bag it. The scythe windrows it neatly for collection. You are harvesting solar energy trapped in cellulose. Every swing of the scythe that clears your field of fire also secures the fertility of your garden for the next season. You have turned a security protocol into a caloric asset. This is the definition of operational efficiency. One motion, two distinct survival victories. Survival is fundamentally a caloric equation, and the kitchen is your primary refinery. In the old world, you cooked for flavor. Now, you cook to unlock bioavailability. Most survival foods, dried beans, game meat, fibrous roots, are inedible or calorically dense but indigestible in their raw state. You cannot afford to waste fuel boiling a thin aluminum pot that loses heat the moment the fire dies. You need a thermal capacitor. This is tool and her 4, the cast iron Dutch oven. This vessel is a triumph of thermodynamics. Cast iron possesses high thermal mass, meaning it absorbs heat slowly and releases it over a prolonged period. Once brought to temperature, a Dutch oven requires only a few embers to maintain a simmering point. This is crucial when fuel wood is finite and requires caloric expenditure to harvest. You are practicing nutritional alchemy, taking low-grade trash food, tough squirrel meat, rock-hard dried corn, and breaking down the collagen and cellulose into digestible proteins and sugars. A modern non-stick pan is a liability. The Teflon coating will flake off and poison you, and the thin metal will warp over an open fire. Cast iron is indestructible. It can be buried directly in the coals, baking bread, or sterilizing water while you sleep. It turns a chaotic, fluctuating fire into a stable, controlled oven, ensuring that every calorie you scavenge is processed into energy your body can use. While you fight starvation with iron, you must fight the microscopic kill mechanism with zinc and wood. Tool Nar 5 is the washboard and plunger agitator. History confirms that in every major conflict and collapse, disease kills more people than bullets. Dysentery, typhus, and cholera are the apex predators of the post-collapse world. These pathogens thrive in filth. When the washing machine stops spinning, the average modern human will wear their clothes until they rot, creating a breeding ground for bacteria and parasites against the skin. This leads to rashes, infections, and eventually, septicemia. The bucket and plunger method is not a primitive chore. It is vector control. You are manually replicating the agitation cycle of a washing machine to force soapy water through fabric fibers, dislodging the particulate matter that harbors disease. The washboard provides the mechanical friction necessary to scour heavily soiled garments, diapers, bandages, field gear. This is your biological firewall. Furthermore, there is a profound element of crowd psychology here. Maintaining a level of hygiene separates the survivor from the savage. It preserves the psychological self against the degradation of the environment. A clean set of clothes is a morale multiplier that reminds you that you are still human, still in control, and not yet defeated by the entropy surrounding you. The final tool on the blacklist addresses the most immediate layer of your survival infrastructure, your clothing. In the strategy of the long emergency, you must internalize the operational principle that clothing is not fashion. It is micro-shelter. It is the first barrier between your biology and the entropy of the environment. If your clothing fails, if a seam rips in sub-zero temperatures, if a boot sole detaches, if a strap breaks on your pack, your operational capacity is compromised. The amateur strategist believes they can simply scavenge for more. This is the loot drop fallacy. It assumes that there will be an endless supply of high-quality, correctly sized gear waiting in abandoned malls. This is a confident mistake. Those locations will be death traps, picked clean or guarded by those with a zero margin of error mindset. You need the capability to maintain what you own indefinitely. You need tool number 6, the treadle sewing machine. Modern sewing machines are plastic, computerized junk that require steady voltage. When the grid fails, they are doorstops. The treadle machine, however, is a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. It converts the linear motion of your feet into the rotational force of the needle driver, generating enough torque to punch through heavy canvas, denim, and even soft leather. This is not about embroidery. It is about barrier maintenance. You are repairing the knees of your work pants to prevent injury. You are reinforcing the webbing on your load-bearing equipment. You are taking oversized, scavenged clothing and tailoring it to fit, ensuring thermal efficiency. A loose coat traps dead air poorly. A fitted coat keeps you alive. This machine gives you the power of a factory floor in the corner of your room, silent and human-powered. Furthermore, the treadle machine is the ultimate economic engine of the new reality. In a barter economy, the man who has bullets is a target. The man who can repair a child's winter coat is a neighbor. Skills and tools that provide immediate value to the community create a protection racket based on necessity rather than violence. If you are the only person who can fix a torn backpack or stitch a canvas tarp, you become an asset to the group. You are no longer just another mouth to feed. You are a critical node in the local supply chain. This elevates your status and protects you from being ostracized or targeted. You move from being a consumer of resources to a producer of value. Finally, this tool is essential for the gray man protocol. The tactical bro walking down the road in pristine multicam camouflage is a beacon for every sniper and desperate looter in the sector. He looks like a supply crate on 2 legs. With a sewing machine, you can modify tactical gear to look civilian. You can sew hidden pockets into standard denim jeans. You can fabricate covers for your weapons. You can blend in. The ability to alter your silhouette is a tactical advantage that relies on needle and thread, not Kevlar. By controlling the fabric of your appearance, you control the narrative of your threat level. The treadle machine allows you to hide in plain sight, repairing the veneer of normalcy while the world burns around you. The transition from the old world to the new reality is not a gradient, it is a cliff. You are currently standing at the edge, clutching a smartphone that will soon be nothing more than a polished black mirror reflecting your own panic. The strategy outlined here is not a suggestion for a hobby. It is a mandatory operational shift from the mindset of a consumer to that of a producer. In the previous paradigm, your survival was outsourced to a global supply chain. You solved problems by swiping a credit card. That era is dead. If you continue to rely on the strategy of scavenging, hoping to loot batteries, gasoline, and medicine from the wreckage, you are classifying yourself as a parasite. Parasites are eventually purged by the host or die when the host collapses. You must become the host. You must become a producer of energy, heat, hygiene, and shelter. using the tools of the Amish Blacklist. This is the final mathematical reality of durability. Every high-tech tool you own has a mean time between failures, MTBF, measured in hundreds of hours. A generator runs for 500 hours before it needs a rebuild. A chainsaw needs maintenance every 10 hours of use. The tools we have identified, the brace, the scythe, the treadle machine, have an MTBF measured in generations. They operate on the physics of leverage and the biology of muscle. They are anti-fragile. They do not break under stress. They simply require the operator to be stronger. By adopting these tools, you remove the variable of breakdown from your survival equation. You eliminate the dependence on a grid that is never coming back. You stop playing the lottery with your life and start engineering your survival with absolute certainty. The window of opportunity to acquire these assets is closing. Right now, these tools are sitting in antique stores and dusty barns, undervalued and ignored by the masses who are fighting over toilet paper and flat-screen TVs. This is an arbitrage opportunity that will never exist again. When the collapse accelerates, the value of a treadle sewing machine will exceed the value of a luxury vehicle. A crosscut saw will be worth more than a stack of gold bars because you cannot eat gold and you cannot heat your home with a BMW. The currency is about to reset to zero. Your bank account is an abstraction. These tools are physical reality. Do not wait for the signal. The silence of the grid is the signal. By the time the panic sets in, the supply will be gone, and you will be left with your confident mistakes, freezing in the dark. Execute the protocol. Secure the blacklist. Build the infrastructure of silence before the noise of the collapse drowns you out. The old world is over. Welcome to the desert of the real.